Alrighty, hello there. Doing a stock market forecast for the 16th of May 2012, and I'll be this video I'll be taking you through a culmination of things that are happening on the 16th. Primarily, I'm a WD Gann, George Bayer analyst. I kind of use their techniques to try and analyze the markets and forecast future trends and so forth. So for mainly a lot of this stuff in this video will be to do with astrology and astrological aspects, and I'll be taking you through the three main aspects that are due on the 16th of May and what their effect has been in the last 5 years. I'm going to take you through each individual aspect, and then I'll show you what I think is going to happen and where we're going to run up to from the 16th onwards, and what's going to happen after that, obviously. So for people that are new to this sort of stuff, and a lot of people are very skeptical about astrology and the stock market and all that sort of stuff. That's all good and well. This isn't a video to try and convince anyone that astrology does work or it doesn't work. All I'm doing is taking you through what's happened in the past and what's going to be happening in the future, which is pure fact, and what is the likely effect going to be. So I would just ask that if you are very skeptical about it, have a listen, have a watch. Let's see what happens in the next week, and we'll be the judge of whether there's some accuracy in this video or not. So let's begin. The first, I guess, let's have a look at the position of the Dow at the moment. And this forecast is for the Dow, and all the other world markets as well should sort of follow suit. We're going to look at the DAX, the German market, just to sort of at the end to tie into what I'm doing here as well, because that market's technically already started to fall over, as the FTSE has, and the Dow's probably the strongest index in terms of high highs and high lows. So this is where we're currently at right now. This is live. The Dow's currently at 12,799. It's Monday, the 14th. So on the 16th of May, we've got three pretty big aspects that are happening, which don't occur every day. They happen. Sometimes they occur every 6 months, once every couple of years, and so forth. So what we'll do is we'll get into the first one, and the first one is for the people that do know a little bit about astrology. Then you'll understand all of this. For people that don't worry about it too much. I'm going to actually show you on the chart what these aspects have done previously, and then what's going to be happening in the future. So the first aspect we want to test is Venus 45 to Mars. This is a geocentric aspect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back the last 5 years, and we're going to go through every single Venus 45 aspect, and we're just going to see what the effect was. So I'm not saying whether it works or it doesn't work. I'm just going to show you the effect, and you guys can be the judge. So the first aspect we had that I'm going to start with is this one here. So for people that do have an ephemeris on them or a program which shows all the aspects, you can go check this for yourself, and you'll see that on the 19th of March 2007 we had a bottom coming in. It was a high bottom, and we moved up until June. So as I would look at it, we've done at least a couple of months up, 2.5 months up, and the price movement that we've done was about 1,600 points. So for me, that's the effect of that aspect, and we'll go look at the next one. So the next time that aspect occurred, Venus 45 Mars, was here on the 20th of August 2007. We missed the low by a couple of days, but from that point, the direction in which the market moved was up, and it did go up for about a month and a half or so. The top was on the 11th, and the range was a bit less that time. It was about 1,000 points up. The next time this aspect occurred, if you go check your ephemeris, was on the 15th of May 2008, and the top occurred 2 days later. As we were running up into a top, I would expect that the market would then be making a top because we were running up the last couple of months, and the effect was that we fell about 2,300 points or so, and again it was a couple of months in time that we fell down for. The next aspect, the next Venus 45 Mars came in here, was on the 2nd of November, and again we see the market running up for a couple of months, and the price range wasn't quite as big this time. It was only about 1,100 points, but we did get at least a couple of months up into that area. The next time the Venus 45 Mars came in was on the 20th of April 2010. Top came in a few days later on the 26th. So we would be expecting a down move because the market had been running up quite heavily. And if we look at the range, we ran down for a couple of months again, 2 months and 3 days, and we did roughly 9.6, about 1,600 points again on the downside. The next time this aspect came in, Venus 45 Mars was on the exact low on October the 4th, so you can go check that in the ephemeris, and you can look at the effect of that run. We ran up very, very quickly, 1,800 points, and the time period was a little bit less, and we had a bit of a pullback. But if you add 2 months to that, it's roughly, the range has gone from here to there, and the reason why I think it came down here was because it just overbalanced in price and time, so it just needed a bit of a break. But the point is that we did have a 1,800 point run up in at least a month or so. So the next time this aspect is repeating, funnily enough, it came in on the 1st of May, and the market has started moving in a downwards direction. The interesting thing about this aspect this time than the previous one is that because of the retrograde motion of Venus, this aspect repeats again on the 16th of May. So we had the first aspect here, and Venus does 45 to Mars on the 16th of May. So what I would be expecting is if somehow we could run up from this low into the 16th, 17th, around there, I would be expecting that we would be getting at least, this cycle is telling me that we're going to get a movement, I would say to the downside, which would be anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 points and at least a couple of months in that direction to the downside. So that's the first aspect that I wanted to show you, and I just pretty much took you through every single time it's happened in the last 5 years and shown you the effect, and you can see every time it's come in, a few times missed it by a couple of days, but you can see that there's a general couple of month movement and at least 1,000 to 1,500 point move as well. The next aspect that's coming in on the exact day as well as that one is the Jupiter 150 Saturn aspect. That's a geocentric as well. And I'm going to take you through the last few Jupiter 150s and we're going to have a look at them. So if you go check your ephemeris, 23rd of March 2009, I think it might have come in over the weekend, this one, the 22nd. If you look at when the aspect came in, the market ran up from that little low there. It ran up about 1,600 points all the way up until June, so it was about 2.5 months or so. The next time that 150 repeated was here. It was on the 19th of August. And if we actually take that range, that previous range from this aspect, once this aspect repeats again, the 150 Jupiter Saturn, and we stick it down there, we see that the market repeated that range exactly, but the time factor was a lot longer. So instead of doing it within 2.5 months, it did it within 5 months. The point being is that the direction in which the market chose to go after the aspect, it did run up in that direction for at least a couple of months, and it did quite a significant point increase, this one being 1,600. The next Jupiter 150 Saturn came in on the low of February the 5th, 2010, and that ran up. If we repeat those ranges that we did in the past, we take this range which I've taken from the other two and we stick it there. The market just failed it by about 200 points, but again in time we did at least 3 months up and exceeded roughly, we did pretty much the same thing in time and price, bar the second one which did go up, which went sideways a little bit more than the other two. We can see that when these aspects do occur, there is quite obviously an effect coming through. Now, the 150 aspect that's due on the 16th of May as well as the Venus 45 Mars, the difference between this one and the other three is that with these three aspects, Jupiter was moving away from Saturn. It's very important to distinguish the two. Jupiter was moving away from Saturn, hit its 180 points through this area, and then started moving back towards Saturn. So what I would be expecting, going over George Bayer's sort of work, and even Gann's work, because it's cause and effect, I would be expecting the inverse move of these. So these did cause up movements every single time, but because Jupiter's moving towards Saturn now, not away from Saturn, I would be expecting the inverse effect of this run, which would mean that we would run down for at least 2.5, 3 months, and the price range would be between 1,400, 1,600. That's what I would be expecting on the 16th. So straight away you can see that we've got the Venus 45 Mars, which has had a big effect each time it's come in the last 5 years, plus is Jupiter Saturn 150 that's coming in on the same day as well. So what I would be looking for is if we can run up into that time period, that would, for me, would show that there would be a change in trend, and I'm pretty much saying that the trend is going to be to the downside, not to the upside. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to go into the price parameters and finding exactly where it's going to be and where exactly to get in. There's one more cycle that I wanted to show, and that is the geocentric 45 Mars-Saturn. Now, I've gone and tested these pretty far back, but the one that we're interested in is the one that's actually coming in on the 16th. Is Mars is behind Saturn, he's approaching Saturn, and Saturn is retrograde. So we want to go back and look at that aspect that's occurred in the past at exactly the same. We don't want to test a Mars-Saturn when they're both direct, because for me it's not relevant for this aspect. We want to test the aspect that's due here. Mars is approaching Saturn and Saturn is retrograde. They're the ones we want to go back test. So let's go back to 2004, which is the first one that I'll be showing. So on this day here, that aspect came in on the 8th of March 2004. Saturn went direct the same day, but I'm going to put it in that it was retrograde up until that point, so I'm going to include it for this demonstration. So we'll just see the effect of it. So the aspect came in, the market ran down for, I think it was 16 calendar days, and it was about 600 points. So that was the first one. The next time it came in was in 2006. You can check that on the ephemeris. So we got Geo 45 Mars is approaching Saturn, and Saturn is retrograde. You can see the effect here. We ran down, I think this one was for 20 calendar days, but we only did about 200 or so points. The next one came in 2008. Where was it? Yep, down here. Okay, so the next Geo 45 Mars approaching Saturn. Saturn is retrograde at the time. We got the exact low here, and we ran up, I think it was about 900 points or so in roughly 18 calendar days. The next one that came in was in 2010, which is just when the flash crash was. There it is. So this came in on the 3rd of May. So the effect of this one, what happened was that the market fell a bit over 1,000 points in only 3 days, and then we had a few day retracement. So I would call that, for me, it's either what that has shown in the last 4 is that we either get a time movement of at least 15 days to the direction that the market wants to take, or we get a price increase or decrease, which is at least 1,000 points. So that's coming in as well on the 16th of May. So we have the Venus 45, Jupiter 150 Saturn, and Mars 45 Saturn. When Saturn's retrograde, Mars is approaching Saturn. So we've got all these three aspects hitting in on the exact same day. There's a fourth little thing that's coming in, and this is through George Bayer's work, Handbook, Trend Determination. He talks about a cycle that he found from one of his spiritual texts, Legend of the Jews, and what he says in that is that if you go back 80 years to the same calendar month and see when Mercury goes retrograde or direct, whatever day it does that, he says that 80 years later, we should expect a turning point. So, for example, and I've gone and tested this cycle, it's about 65 to 70%. If you go back the last 3 or 4 years and test it on the Dow, about 65, 70% chance you're going to turn. So it's not something that I would just use on its own, but it is coming in on the 16th. So I'll just give you an example. On the 4th of October, we had the big low here in 2011. If you go back 80 years to 1931 on the 4th of October, you'll see that Mercury went into Libra, geocentric. So that's just an example, and it just so happens that on the 16th as well, on the 16th of May, sorry, the 15th of May, 1932, Mercury went into Taurus, but it went in at 22:50 on the universal time. So the market closes at 2100 London time on the Dow. So for me, that aspect's going to hit on the 16th as well. So we've got three pretty major planetary aspects coming in on this day. Plus we've got that Mercury aspect coming in as well. The question is, I guess now is, we need, for me, for this market to then have a pretty big decline, as we've seen in the past with all these aspects, for us to have a really big decline, we need to run up into that date. If the market chooses to run down into the 16th, that it pretty much changes a lot, because the aspects could then force the market to continue lower, or if we start making a bottom, then I would pretty much reverse everything and say that the market's going to go up, you know, 1,500 points. I can't see that happening. I think if we do break, it's going to be a false break, because there's quite a bit of volume here on the Dow at a low. So I'm thinking that we will get a little bit of a pullback, and hopefully do run up into that 16th. But yeah, if it does run down to the 16th, I would be pretty cautious about shorting it, unless there was, you know, obviously confirmation and we did make fresh lows. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, this forecast is for the market to run up into the 16th, and if it does, I can then predict pretty much that we are going to run down for quite a long time. I would say at least a couple of months and at least 1,500 points. The other thing to look at is the 10-year cycle, and it's best to look at it on the DAX, because it's actually repeating on the DAX a lot. It's easier to see than the Dow. So if we go back to 2001 on the DAX, this is the top that came in on the DAX on the 22nd of May, and we fell down to the 21st of September. So we fell down roughly, I think it was about nearly 3,000 points. It was about 2,800 points. And if you study Gann, you understand Gann talks about the 10-year cycle, 20-year cycle, 60-year cycle, and so forth. So we're in a phase now where it looks to me that we are repeating pretty much exactly the 10-year cycle, and I'll show you how that's happening. So 2001, we fell from May down into September. We had a retracement to the 19th of March 2002, and then we repeated that range. If I take this range here from the high in 2001 and take it down there, and then I drag it to the top in 2002, you'll see that all the way down to that price level. It took a little bit longer in time, but the price hit pretty much exact for that year. And if we go 10 years later and we see the price action, it's pretty similar. You'll see that in 2011 we had, this is the same trend line. This one here is the same trend line that happened 10 years ago. And you'll see that, if I can just put that in front of the camera, you'll see that the market went just above it. So it was just a little bit lower, but pretty much the same sort of decline that we had 10 years ago exactly. And if you look at the dates, this was the 2nd of May 2011. The other one was the 22nd of May. So we're 20 days out. But if you look at the top here, the top was on the 19th of March 2012, and if we go back 10 years, the exact top was on the same exact day, 19th of March 2002, and we started downtrending. So the way that I would analyze this is, well, where's our confirmation? And here it is. We've got this first low that you can see just up here, and we've come down through here. We've had three sort of false breaks, but we've taken that low out. We've had a secondary sort of advance up to the 61%, and now we've taken this low out. So for me, that's confirmation that we're starting a downtrend. The other thing is that we've turned within the previous top last year. We've turned before that. So if you zoom out, for me, it looks like we're going to repeat, just like we did 10 years ago, we're going to repeat the same range that did the year before, which sends us down to the 4,500 level on the DAX. Probably a bigger drop than the Dow, or similar drop to the Dow, but this is already starting to confirm the downtrend, as you can see there. So whereas the Dow hasn't confirmed a downtrend, we just made a false break double top, so we're still above these bottoms here. So the Dow hasn't confirmed anything yet in terms of a downtrend, whereas the DAX has. And if you look at the FTSE, same sort of pattern for the 10-year cycle, where we've turned within last year's top as well. That was last year's top. We've come down, we failed it, and now we're making lower lows and lower highs. For me, this is tealing over, and it's going to repeat what it did 10 years ago. Now, the reason why this is, I'm feeling that the 10-year cycles we're on here, is that we've got all those astro cycles coming in on the 16th. So if we can get a run up into the 16th, those astro cycles are either going to move the market, as we've seen in the past, all three of them at once, which is just, you don't see that very often. They're either going to move the market to the upside or to the downside. So you've got to pick the direction. I'm picking the direction down because all these other world markets, and I can go through all of them, the Aussies repeated look at the Aussie index, it's repeated the same range it did last year. I'll just quickly jump on that. I mean, this is to the exact cent. I mean, you look at this first sharp decline we've had. We go back to last year when the market topped. So this is the top of 2011 up here. You can see on the chart. If I take that line and grab it and stick it to this first sharp decline, they're exactly the same. Virtually exactly the same. So what I'd be expecting is a similar sort of run-up into the 16th, which actually comes in perfectly, the 16th, 17th. It's a head and shoulders top over here as well. If you can see that, if I can put it right in there, you can all see it. So, I mean, things are linking up that, if we do get that secondary advance with all these cycles coming in, what's going to happen? The market's either going to move upwards or it's going to move downwards. That's what we've seen in the past. It's very unlikely that nothing's going to happen at all because those cycles are very powerful, as we've seen. So because of the state that all the indexes are in, my take is that this is going to force the Dow lower. If we look at the S&P 500 really quickly, that's already made... I'll just quickly get the daily chart up. So if we have a look over here, I mean, pretty obvious. We've failed that high over here, so we've made new lows. The only problem is we're still above this low here, which means that the downtrend hasn't confirmed yet until we really take out that low. So if we can get that retracement up into the 16th, 17th, and then take out the low, well then the downtrend's on, and then you can repeat this range. I'm pretty confident that we'll repeat this range to the downside. Just one more thing quickly. I want to quickly go into the price points where I'll be looking to short. This is a 5-minute chart. The Dow is live. So on the 16th, what I've got here, I've drawn some. These vibration lines are Mars. They're Mars lines, and what I've done is not too complicated. I get the exact time of the low, and as Mars moves 1 minute in geocentric longitude, I add 1 point to that movement. So if Mars moves over 30 minutes, then I just add 30 points. So this low here that it hit, it had moved 32 minutes, so I add 32 points. These lines here are just I've just doubled it, so that's 64 points for 32 minutes. That's 128, 256, and so forth. So that's a 2 by 1, 4 by 1, 8, 16, 32 by 1. And you know, it doesn't work every time, but you do get the market bouncing off these vibration lines, especially the Mars ones. I found that they're really, really accurate. So what I've got drawn here is the 16th, where I'm looking for all these cycles to where all the cycles are culminating. And I've drawn, if you can see this line here, the second one, here is the Mars 1 by 1 line from the top here. And we can see here we caught the high of that. The second line here is the moon line, which they work sometimes, but I just stuck it in there to see if there's sort of added confirmation. The reason why I'm looking, my prediction is that the Dow's going to, if it does hit 13,110 to 13,130, around that level, that's going to be, if you like, a squaring atomic price, because you have all these aspects coming in. Another thing that you also have, and I can't go into this on this video, it's just going to take too long to explain. When you convert those aspects you convert the longitude of all those aspects to price, the prices are actually 13,000, I think it was 13,119 and 13,130 roughly for all those planets at that time. So I've got so many things coming in at that price level, it's just not a joke. You've got the 61.8% retracement level. If you go back and back test that, and you see how many times the Dow does a first sharp decline and then runs up either into the 61.8% or the 75%, it happens quite a lot, you know. So not only that, but we also have a head and shoulders here on the 5-minute chart and on the hourly chart as well. That's coming in at 13,130. So with all these price points, resistant points, all that sort of stuff coming in, if the market can somehow get up into the 16th, then I think it's a fantastic opportunity for a downside move. If the market decides not to get up that high, but it still can run up into the 16th, I'd still be looking again for a downward move. I'd definitely, if the market ran down into the 16th, that would change things up a lot. I would have to see what direction the market would take. I'm just a little bit skeptical in going long, purely because all the other indices in the world have actually started downtrending a little bit. So it would just be hard to see them starting that downtrend, and with that 10-year cycle, it would be hard to see them turn around and do a big move up again. But you know, anything's possible, so you got to follow the trend of the market. But anyway, that's the forecast. So we're looking at 13,000, about 13,110, 13,130 on the Dow. 16th of May. Let's see what happens, and yeah, good luck. And just also want to say that this video, this isn't trading advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This is just my own research, and it's definitely not for people to be trading off or anything like that. It's just an educational sort of thing. So don't you know, go on my advice at all. Do your own research. But I just wanted to put this out there and see how we go. So anyway, thanks for your time. Take care. Bye.